Almost 5 years after her husband was murdered at a South Nashville sports bar, Nikki Gozer goes into detail about the tragedy, and she does it on national TV.
She's become known as a gun rights advocate here in the Mid-State, but tonight there is even more to her story. Fox 17's Erica Curry sat down with Gozer on the eve of this episode airing.
Scott and Stacy, we all know Nikki Gozer for strongly supporting gun rights here in Tennessee, but you'll soon see details leading up to that fateful night in 2009 that claimed her husband's life and what she wants you to know about it.
Mexico's firearms are under attack and we are outnumbered. This places us in a tough situation with the new change of guard in the Mary Roundhouse in Santa Fe. Here's a review of the upcoming session in response to the governor's call to action. The House Consumer and Public Affairs Committee is expected to hold public hearings on the following gun control measures on Thursday, January 24th at 1:30 p.m. in room 317 of the state capitol. Now, the committee agendas have not been officially posted, so room 317, that's not a hard and fast room. So let's start with the first one, House Bill 8, the so-called universal background check legislation sponsored by Representative Deborah Sarignana, would ban all private firearm sales between law-abiding individuals. Gun owners will be forced to pay undetermined fees and obtain government approval before selling firearms to family members, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. This proposal will have no impact on crime and is unenforceable without gun registration.
He was funny. My husband was fun. He was a lot of fun.
Nikki Gozer and her late husband Ben had only been married a year before a man stalking her opened fire in a bar they were working in.
Evil can visit you at any time and anywhere.
Security video appears to show the murderer pulling a handgun and then shooting Ben Gozer multiple times.
I'll never know if I could have stopped my stalker from murdering my husband. I'll never know because I was denied a chance.
Our next bill, House Bill 35, by Representative Miguel Garcia, would require federal firearm license dealers to pay the state $200 annually to establish a system for the Department of Public Safety to run stolen gun checks on any used firearm and FFL purchases. While FFLs and gun owners support getting stolen firearms off the street, a functional process that allows them to conduct such checks in real time needs to be worked out in advance of any such mandate. And the state, rather than small business owners, should finance such a public safety initiative.
Gozer, a gun carry permit holder, was not allowed by state law to carry her firearm into Johnny's sports bar. She's since been the face of gun rights here in Tennessee and credited with the passing of 2 bills, one allowing guns in establishments that serve alcohol. Another bill allows guns locked in your personal vehicle while you're at work.
There's a lot of good people out there that have worked very, very hard to try and see that these self-defense laws are passed. And I'm grateful for those people.
Gozer is also grateful to share her story to a broader audience with the release of a new book. Also, in an hour-long episode on Investigation Discovery, she shows a more personal side.
Our third bill, House Bill 40 by Representative Miguel Garcia, would require criminal records checks on private firearm sales at gun shows, a perennial target of the gun control crowd, even though studies show that these events are not a source of crime guns.
How our marriage was, what our life was like, and then it takes you through how this stranger came into our lives.
It's an emotional look into the Gozer's seemingly perfect life and the sudden tragedy that changed it all that she hopes many can learn from.
There are very evil people out there, there are sick people out there, and I hope that the audience will take measures to protect themselves and their family.
Our fourth bill, House Bill 83, Extreme Risk Protection Order or Red Flag legislation, Comply or Die, sponsored by Representative Damon Eli, would authorize the seizure of firearms and ammunition from individuals without due process. Unchallenged statements made by a petitioner before a judge alleging that someone is a danger to themselves or others in an ex parte proceeding prior to any formal court hearing at which the respondent can be represented by counsel and present counter evidence would be sufficient for law enforcement to enter that person's home and confiscate their private property.
The episode Obsession, Dark Desires airs tomorrow night on Investigation Discovery. Ben Gozer's killer was convicted of second-degree murder and is serving a 23-year sentence.
House Bill 87 by Representative Deborah Armstrong expands the state's prohibited person firearm law by purportedly incorporating federal firearm disqualifications. The bill would prohibit individuals convicted of certain domestic violence misdemeanor crimes or who are subject to a domestic violence protective order from purchasing or possessing a firearm or ammunition, with being a criminal offense. However, the bill goes beyond the prohibited categories in federal law in several significant ways. The state law definition of household member, unlike federal law, specifically includes a person who is or has been in a continuing personal relationship, which applies to dating or intimate partners who have never lived together. The bill would include as firearm prohibiting offenses nonviolent misdemeanors with no physical contact between the parties, like harassment by telephone or email, or criminal damage to the property or jointly owned property of a household member. Unlike federal law, this bill would require anyone subject to a protective order to surrender any firearms they own, possess, or control to law enforcement within 48 hours of the order. Not only does this bill impose a mandatory surrender, it authorizes law enforcement to seize any guns that are in plain sight or are discovered pursuant to a lawful search. Similar legislation had passed the legislature in 2017, but was vetoed by Governor Susana Martinez. Significantly, the 2017 legislation contained other options for affected parties to comply with the firearm surrender requirement, including storing their guns with licensed firearm dealers or transferring the guns to a qualified third party. These key alternatives are not contained in this bill. Moving on to the next bill, House Bill 130, sponsored by Representative Linda Trujillo, would make gun owners criminally and civilly liable if a child gains unsupervised access to an unsecured firearm. New Mexico already has a first-degree felony child abuse statute on the books to hold adults accountable for putting children's lives or health at risk in any manner. The tools exist to charge and prosecute parents or guardians in appropriate cases. Education is the key to protecting gun owners and their kids, not a state mandate on how one stores a firearm in his or her home. Please, make plans to attend Thursday's hearing to speak out against these misguided bills and contact committee members to urge them to oppose these measures.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Mark Robinson. I live That's right here in Greensboro. I've lived in Greensboro all my life. I didn't have time to write a fancy speech. I didn't have time to, I didn't have the resource of an English teacher to sit down and write a speech with at school today and be, brought over here or practice or anything. What I really came down here for is this. I've heard a whole lot of people in here talking tonight about this group and that group, and domestic violence and blacks, these minorities and that minority. What I want to know is, when are you all going to start standing up for the majority? And here's who the majority is. I'm the majority. I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. I've never done anything like that. But it seems like every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet. You want to turn around and restrict my right, constitutional right that's spelled out in black and white. You want to restrict my right to buy a firearm and protect myself from some of the very people you're talking about in here tonight. That's the reason why I came down here today. Gun show or no gun show, NRA or no NRA. I'm here to stand up for the law-abiding citizens of this community, because I'm going to tell you that what's going to happen. You can take the guns away from us all you want to. You all write a law, I follow the law, I'll bring my guns down here, I'll turn them in. But here's what's going to happen. The Crips and the Bloods on the other side of town, they're not going to turn their guns in. They're going to hold on to them. And what's going to happen when you have to send the police down there to go take them? The police can barely enforce the law as it is. As what I see, we demonize the police, criminalize and vilify the police, and we make the criminals into victims. And we're talking about restricting guns? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that when the police department's already hamstrung?